Okay, Algebra 2C, now we're working on the second section, which is problems 10 through 15 on the review. So now we have the square root of x cubed y times the square root of x to the fifth y to the fourth. And what we need to do is we need to multiply two terms together. So I'm going to multiply the x's together, and I'm going to multiply the y's together. And that's going to give me x to the eighth times y to the fifth. Okay, so now I have the square root of x to the 8th times y to the 5th, and I want to break that off into two easier problems. So I'm going to take it to the square root of x to the 8th and the square root of y to the 5th. So I'll simplify those separately. The square root of x to the 8th, 2 goes into 8 4 times, so I have x to the 4th. And 2 goes into 5 2 times, so I have y squared, and I have a remainder of 1, so I have the square root of y. So my final answer is x to the fourth, y squared times the square root of y. Okay, number 11. Number 11, I have the cube root of 25, x cubed, y to the fourth, times the cube root of 10, xy squared. So I'm going to multiply the two terms together just like I did in problem 10. And now I have the cube root of 250, x to the third times x gives me x to the fourth, and y to the fourth times y squared gives me y to the sixth. Okay, now I'm going to break it off into three easier problems. So the cube root of 250, the cube root of x to the fourth, and the cube root of y to the sixth. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you that we need to find a perfect cube root. And the perfect cube root that fits into 250 is actually the cube root of 125. So I'm going to break this off into the cube root of 125 times the cube root of 2. Okay. How many times does 3 go into 4? It goes in once, so I have x to the first times the remainder of just 1. And then how many times does 3 go into 6? It goes in twice, so I have the y squared. Lastly, I'm going to put all my solutions that are outside the cube root out front. The cube root of 125 is 5. I have the x right there, the y squared, and then what's my remainder? Cube root of 2x. So that's my final answer. Number 12, same idea, but now we're dealing with fourth roots. So I'm going to multiply those together. I get the fourth root of 32, a to the fourth, b to the seventh by adding the exponents. Now I need to find a perfect fourth root that fits in to 32. That's actually going to be 16. So I'm going to break this off into my easier parts first. 16 times the fourth root of a to the fourth times the fourth root of b to the seventh. And now I need to split. I meant to say, I split this. This is the fourth root of 32. I need to split this 32 into two equal parts. And that's going to be a fourth root of 16, which is the perfect fourth, and the fourth root of 2. How many times does 4 go into 4? It goes in once, so I have a to the first. And then how many times does 4 go into 7? It goes in once, so I have b to the first, and I have the fourth root of 3, because that's my remainder, b to the third. Now my final answer is everything that can be simplified. So I have this, I have my a, I have my b. That goes all up front, so I get 2ab, because that 2 is the fourth root of 16, and my remainder is the fourth root of 2, b to the third power. Okay, so that's 10, 11, and 12. Let's go down to 13, 14, and 15. This is multiplication. Okay, so multiplication, we need to distribute the square root of 3x. So I'm going to distribute to both terms, and now I'm going to multiply them. The square root of 3x times the square root of 27x, we can do 3 times 27, which gives me 81. And x times x gives me x squared. Now I need to do the square root of 3x times the square root of 12. Multiply 3 times 12 gives me 36, and just the x. Now I could break this square root of 81 into two parts. Square root of 81 times the square root of x squared. That simplifies to just 9 times x. And I'm going to break this into the square root of 36 times the square root of x. The square root of 36 is just 6, and the square root of x can't simplify. So in fact, I cannot combine like terms because this x is different from the square root of x. So that's my final answer. Okay, number 14. I have the square root of 3 plus 2, and I'm quantity squaring, so I'm squaring the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it so that I can clearly see what I'm multiplying. Square root of 3 plus 2, and I'm going to multiply it by itself, because that's what squaring is. And then we just need to distribute like we did in the first problem. So I'm going to distribute that square root of 3, and I'm going to distribute the 2. The square root of 3 times square root of 3 gives me just 3. The square root of 3 times 2 gives me 2 root 3. Then 2 times the square root of 3 gives me another 2 root 3. And then 2 times 2 gives me 4. And now I'm just going to combine my terms. I can add the 3 with 4, and I can add the 2 root 3 plus 2 root 3. So that gives me 7 plus, if I have 2 root 3's here and 2 root 3's there, add it together, gives me 4 root 3. Okay? Now I'm going to rewrite the last problem, give myself a little bit more space, so I'm going to put it down at the bottom. 15, and I have 3 root x minus the square root of y times 3 times square root of 2x plus square root of y. Okay, let's give me some more space here. Okay, so I need to distribute. I'm going to distribute the 3 times the square root of x, multiply the coefficients in front, so I get 9, and I'm going to multiply what's underneath the square root, so 2x squared. Then I'm going to distribute the 3 times the square root of x times the square root of y, so I get plus 3 times the square root of x, y, which is both underneath the square root. Then I'm going to distribute the square root of negative y, which gives me a negative 3 times the square root of 2xy. And I'm going to distribute that square root of negative y over here. The square root of y times the square root of y is just y. And remember there's a negative right here, so that's going to give me a negative y. Now if you look at all 3 of these, none of them share in common. So the only thing I can do here is I can only simplify this term right here by splitting it up into the square root of 2 times the square root of x squared. And that simplifies to x, and I can bring that out front, so my final answer is 9x plus 3 times the square root of xy minus 3 times the square root of 2xy minus y. And that is your final answer.